Scotty Beam fires back at Joe Budden and provides receipts. She just went on Twitter and decided to address Joe Budden for his tirade that he went on in a recent episode of the Joe Budden podcast. So let's get right to what Scotty said. She said, lying is insane, but expected from a drug addict, especially when Andre Harrell called to apologize on your behalf for your inappropriate, aggressive actions with me on set. And that's why I left. Clean it up, coke whore. Now, this, like I said, comes on the heel of Joe Budden responding to Scotty Beam's recent comments on his podcast.
And I think some of the bitterness from Shorty comes from whatever transpired during our time at Revolt. But one, I fired you. I'm sick of good, black, successful men getting their backs kicked in by you people that just read shit and say it, which was the downfall that it happened already and it's over with.
Scotty Beam called out Joe on Twitter for not talking about the Diddy situation, and then Joe Budden went on his podcast and basically said Scotty Beam's a hack in media. She doesn't know what she's doing. She gets a lot of her takes from Twitter, and that's why she wasn't successful on State of the Culture. State of the Culture was Joe Budden's show that was the heir apparent to Everyday Struggle, and it aired on Revolt. Scotty Beam and Joe Budden would find themselves at odds, often operating on both sides of the gender war, which led for some theatrics, but never allowed them to build chemistry. And things are getting nuclear for both parties. You know, this is an interesting situation Joe Budden finds himself. He doesn't have the highest rating with women audiences. Like, a lot of women think he's gross. A lot of women think most male podcasters are gross, to be fair, just because often male podcasters comment on women and don't necessarily have women voices in there to counteract the masculine language. But as to where this goes from here, I don't know, man. Joe has to play it careful. I think Joe can go real crazy on Scotty, but Scotty, you know, she can let these tweets off. They can keep going back and forth. But sad, man. These two were friends at one point. I remember when Joe Budden would go to Hot 97, Scotty Beam and him seemed to be close to some level, and Scotty would joke around with him, pal around with him. She would even appear on an episode of The Pull-Up back when Joe Budden was doing it at his house. But now that has gone out the window. Scotty Beam is anti-Joe. It's also interesting to note that Scotty Beam is pretty cool with Rory Mal and a lot of folks on that side. Not that that colors this dynamic, but it definitely adds an element to it. Moving forward, I anticipate Joe Budden will leave this alone. Like I said, he has nothing to gain. But let me know what you think in the comments. What does this mean for Joe Budden and Scotty Beam moving forward? I know Scotty Beam does a lot in the modeling world, so I think that's the lane that she operates in now. I know she probably has some type of content, but nothing too notable. Like, I don't think she has a podcast that is led by herself. Maybe she does something occasionally, but most of the stuff I've seen has been her impact in modeling. And as for how Joe responds, I have no clue. I really have no clue. This is a dicey situation. How he did get at her in episode 711, though, was pretty good and entertaining. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to cap. That was skillful. He basically called Scotty Beam a half-stepper, someone he tried to help succeed that could never figure it out because of her own insecurities. And boy, Scotty Beam fired back by calling him a coke whore that was aggressive with her on set. Oh, man. Pod Wars are here, y'all. Welcome to March 2024. It's Pod Wars. All right, y'all. There's another thing we got to cover up, because it seems like a recent guest also said Joe Budden was inappropriate with her as well, man. Everybody's dunking on Joe Budden. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.
Round 2.